time, I'd like to open the public hearing on Time Warner Cable. And just by way of background information, I think people were aware that we did have a survey on the town's website that asked a number of questions concerning cable service and people's satisfaction with it, various aspects of it. The survey closed on November 22nd, and we've received the results, but they have not yet been tabulated. So at tonight's hearing, what we're really hoping to get is public input that you may have in addition to the survey questions. And I'd like to add that a few people who didn't have computer access did request hard copies of the survey, and they were given copies and able to fill them out. So I think the total number of responses we received was right around 105. Which is not a big number, but it's better than no responses. So do we have anyone here who would like to address the issue of Time Warner Cable and whether, anything about your... Yes?
Hi. We subscribe to Time Warner, and we have the basic choice. And there are 4 channels that we do not receive any signals for. That have been eliminated over the years, and those are 6, 14, 16, and 19. And we still have to pay a full price for the basic, which is $19.95, but we don't have anything on those channels.
Okay.
And so I would like to either pay less or have something in those channels.
I just need to have a name.
Yes, could you state your name, please?
Yes, Sarah Hundgen, Hundgen.
Thank you.
If I could ask an inquiry, you said Channel 4. Was that the previous
6.
Boston ABC channel or NBC?
I think it was Fox originally. Wasn't it 6 Fox? I don't know what 14 and 16 and 19 were. Sorry.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other comments concerning Time Warner? Yes, sir. Your name?
I'm Wally Stewart. I have been involved with the community TV program since the start. And in the last 8+ years, we've had a franchise fee that has been raised by the town through the cable company, and it's been, I think you've seen a great improvement in the service that has been provided because of the availability of that funds that have come in. And I would like to request that in the new franchise agreement, that in the provision concerning the franchise fee, there be a statement of purpose that indicates that this franchise fee is being raised for the purpose of support of community television, and that the funds that come in from the cable subscribers for this to the town be dedicated to the purpose of community TV.
I believe that is what that's how we pay for PB Cam, is through the franchise fees. That's what it's used for, pretty much.
But there's nothing in the current franchise agreement that indicates that that's the purpose that we have implemented the franchise fee. There actually was a statement at the time 8 years ago indicating that that's why they were starting it. But I think it would be nothing that the cable company would have the least objection to, since it doesn't obligate them to anything, because it's really how the money, why we're implementing the franchise fee, which is a local option. And this would also tend to bind future, probably not completely, but tend to bond future boards and town meetings to implement, using the money just for that purpose rather than for some other purpose.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Ron's right. We never did accept in an agreement officially with Time Warner. That's what we would use the money
Use
for,
the money
is
for.
compensation that we receive. I think everybody definitely understood it was to be used to form PBCAM, and it can keep it continued.
I guess the question I have, and you might have an answer for this, but I wonder why that would be something that would be in their contract rather than in something that the town implements as a, whether it's as a procedure or, one of,
The town can do it by making a mission statement to
Right.
accept all money from whatever cable company to continue going towards the offsetting cost of PBCAM.
yeah. I mean, or it could go in both places.
I know the previous 10 years with state cable way back, there was such a statement, even though it was never implemented by the select board in the town. It did indicate that the purpose of that local implementation of it would be in support of community television, but in this current one, that I actually don't have the copy of the Time Warner, but the Adelphia one, which I assume the Time Warner was very similar, it simply doesn't mention anything about why it's in the contract other than some FCC or federal regulations that permit it to be in there, but beyond that. But anyway, it's just a way, and maybe you're right that it would be better if it were in some other document that indicate that, but it's just a thought that I had because it had been in the previous franchise agreement.
It just does seem like to me it would be better if it was a town document that would bind the town to a commitment so that a subsequent select board wouldn't arbitrarily be able to make a decision to change the policy. So it needs to be something that would bind us during the period of that franchise, but I do agree it should be something, it's a town document.
But we can ask what the, normal practice is too. If it should be in the contract, then it can go.
What they're stating is actually the opposite, and the reason why they do it. Continuity, Ray, of government, to go from one contract to another board, to another board, to another board, is if you have a 10-year contract, and within that contract, there's a clause stating what A is to be used for, no matter who the sitting board is. It carries itself throughout that contract.
Right.
A contract done by a board of selectmen can be challenged in the future and undone by another board. I'm not saying it would happen, and I'm saying it has happened, but for continuity purposes, the reason why cable companies have put this in their contracts before is to guarantee that during the entire run of the contract, which is usually 10 years,
Yeah.
that money will always be used for that purpose.
So we can,
It's something to think about.
yeah, we can bring it up, definitely. All right, anybody else? Yes?
Hello, my name is Brendan Hope. I'm a Plymouth resident. I also work at Plymouth State University, and in that capacity, I make use of the public access facilities at PBCAM. I was once on the cable board until it was dissolved by the select board. And I have a couple of things to address with regards to the renewal of the franchise agreement. The first has to do with public access. And I've lived in town for 7-8 years now, and I've seen the public access facilities grow during this time. I've seen the franchise fees raised to help pay for those. I've seen the select boards help contribute to both fund facilities and personnel to make those facilities happen and available to all. The reality is those costs don't go away. They continue to rise year after year. I recently installed a high-definition camera and switching equipment in the studio I maintain at Plymouth State. Those are on the order of $15,000 just for the equipment to bring things into the modern age. The equipment that is in the current studio facility at the public access Open Peace Library is adequate, but there's always a new demand for new technology, and again, these things evolve. The 5% franchise fee that is currently charged, it's not enough to cover those expenses, and I would respectfully submit that Time Warner's feet be pressed to the fire, and that either a lump sum be requested to help pay for these ongoing facilities and staff needs in the future, or that a percentage of Time Warner's revenue be dedicated towards funding these activities. These costs aren't going to go away. The unfortunate reality is that the personnel that is currently tasked with running the facilities is underpaid. It's been underpaid for many, many years, given the technical qualifications that are required to do that position. And so I would respectfully submit on that note that, to try and do everything possible to play hardball with Time Warner, if that means threatening to switch to another provider such as MetroCast, so be it. If it means that town has to do without cable TV for a matter of weeks or months, I would submit that that's reasonable. Given that Time Warner and other cable providers do the exact same kind of hardball tactics with other cable networks. You've probably read about those kinds of stories in the past where Fox may be removed for a certain length of time because contract disputes are ongoing. So I would respectfully submit that be something that the select board consider as part of its negotiations. Making sure that the public access facilities have access. There was an incident a few years ago where the town was made to pay for equipment that was necessary because Time Warner was upgrading their facilities to digital cable, or I don't remember the exact specifics of the situation, but it was an expense that was born out of a budget that was designed to pay for things for the public to use, cameras and microphones and audio cables and those kinds of things. Time Warner really thinks of Plymouth, I believe, as an afterthought. If you have cable TV, tune in to Channel 21. That's Time Warner's supplied regional access channel. You won't find any programming on Plymouth on that channel. You won't find any programming for New Hampshire on that channel. That channel has only products and programming regarding Maine, because that's where their headquarters are, and we've just kind of evolved into this particular, well, yesterday we're Adelphia, and now the big monopoly powers have met, and now it's deemed that Time Warner will be serving Plymouth and the surrounding area. Make them care about Plymouth and the community that they serve. I see no evidence of that. I got a bill today from Time Warner Cable saying that they're going to be raising their rates effective December 1st. I just got the bill in the mail, I think Friday or Saturday, as late for Thanksgiving. No time to react. If I was to switch to satellite or a different kind of television provider. So I would also suggest that perhaps if Time Warner is going to raise their rates on an annual basis, as they've done for the 7 years that I've lived in town, that they consider doing so on a fiscal year basis. Raise your rates in June so that it's not during the holidays and conveniencing folks. Give cable subscribers 60 days notice so that if they want to have the opportunity to change providers, they may do so and have enough time to transition that. So those are some general comments. I have other comments regarding specific channel options. This nice young lady over here talked about Channel 14, and I believe WSBK was one of the channels that at one point the town received, and for reasons that were never really made clear, is not being currently received. Why is that important? I'm a college sports fan, and WSBK is currently the network of choice for various ACC football and basketball programming. For reasons that remain unclear to me, many of those ACC matches that might occur on, say, ESPN, say the ACC basketball tournament, are blacked out. And calls to Time Warner point the finger at ESPN, calls to ESPN point the finger at Time Warner. We're in this black hole because we're a small community, and Time Warner doesn't seem to really recognize that we're here. So I would respectfully submit that I'd like to see WSBK back in the lineup. NFL Network. Time Warner nationally has not provided NFL Network to its subscribers, while other cable providers do. I'm not suggesting that it should be provided on a basic tier.
What about A&E? I mean, really?
Not A&E is provided.
Okay, well, not on the basic.
So, NFL Network, I would submit, subscribers should have the option to have that on a sports or a premium tier. Currently, we don't even have that option. The Weather Channel. I work in the meteorology program in Plymouth State, so this is very close to me. The computer that runs the local on the 8's forecasts that you may watch on the Weather Channel from time to time, that has not been upgraded in the 8 years that I've been here. I go on vacation to cities or business trips all across the country, and I see a much better graphics package on that particular thing. That's a computer that resides locally at the head end. So that's a computer that's just dedicated to Plymouth and surrounding towns. That Time Warner, at its option with the Weather Channel, could choose to upgrade. It doesn't do that because it doesn't see any reason to, despite the fact that they bring in advertising dollars from that particular system. If you watch a local forecast, you'll see a crawl along the bottom for various local businesses. If you look at the radar map, the map is incorrect. They've got a 495 interstate symbol, I believe, in Maine. It hasn't been that way for years. So they really haven't paid attention to what's going on there. WMUR just released a new sub-channel. You may have heard of it. It's called MeTV. If you were within terrestrial range of Manchester, you'd probably be able to get it with a normal antenna. Granted, this channel only provides mostly reruns of the golden era of television, Gunsmoke, and other reruns of things. But again, other cable subscribers, Comcast subscribers in the state are able to get this channel, and we're not. And so that's really what I've got to say on the subject, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
ironically, when the meeting started, we have no volume on television. And it's not our equipment.
So we're not getting, nobody at home can hear our
You've seen
meeting?
right now, there's no audio right now.
So we can say whatever we want. Just kidding.
Like that.
And I'm sure I'll ready to turn that switch back on.
And just...
I would submit that makes my point. I mean...
And for everybody's information who's here, Plymouth has joined together with, how many other towns are we working with? 3 other towns and Plymouth State University in this area, all of whom have Time Warner cable contracts up for renewal, thinking that with numbers, there's more strength. We're sharing an attorney to work with us on this, so I think I think that all the information that we're going to be bringing to the table is probably going to have a little bit more leverage than it might if it were just, as you say, little Plymouth. So thank you very much. Anyone else?
Would you like this sheet of paper of the updates, the price updates, and the listing of the nose signals on what channels?
Would you like to? Yes, please. We'll add that
I
to
was going to
our...
ask you, are your comments in written form?
I just have a series of talking points.
If you'd like to put them in writing, we can add them to the written input that we got. That would be terrific.
Okay, it's just for the secretary.
Sarah, say no.
Yes, Mr. Wood.
I'd like to see a landline into the high school for choruses and band concerts and other stuff they have there, plus football. And even into the grade school. If they're coming down there, they're gonna go put one in the grade school and then in the high school too for live feed. I don't know if they have it at the college at the field house or the hockey rink, but they should.
Is that
I
something?
know it's one of the things that Charlie Berman is talking about with PSU at these Time Warner meetings, about even having another substation located on campus so that we could do more broadcasting
Yeah.
and events and use the facilities to even have our own meetings and stuff like that, like Silver Hall.
Right.
And,
Good. So that is one of the
It's being
things that's
looked
being
into.
brought to the table. Anything else on Time Warner? Yes.
I would just like to compliment the board for the approach this year as opposed to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there was a citizens committee that was appointed from the 3 or 4 towns to do essentially the same thing, and I think it's, from my experience, because I was on the board, that committee worked for a year and a half, all sorts of research and doing all sorts of stuff, and then started reporting back. Most of that work was really useless because we had not been tasked with or funded to have access to a municipal cable attorney. And so finally, at the last couple months before the final negotiations ended, I think the same firm that you're using right now was contacted, and the gentleman came and talked to us and really said, well, you know, this is not much I can do at this late state because you haven't done any survey, haven't done any, the kind of research that you need to do. So I just want to say that the approach of having the board itself do it and getting together the other towns, I think is probably a more productive one. We had to argue for a couple of months just to get the funds to get an attorney at that late date, and it kind of was, at that point, it was really too bad because the money wasn't really well spent in the end anyway. So I think it is being well spent at this date, being, what, a year and a half out for Plymouth, and I think it's
Thank
a
you.
good approach.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, we'll probably edit this section of tonight's meeting and run that separately on our website, so that as many people as possible can hear.
We'll be able to, on the computer, we'll be able to...
We're taping it, right? No, we do have sound, right, all our equipment's work, and we have sound going to the disc. We can pick up all the other stations, we just can't pick up the volume on this station.
Anything else on Time Warner? All right, I declare the public hearing closed on Time Warner.
Maybe